Here comes the, y'all don't really want it like that. Yeah. Here comes the.
YouTube, what's going on, everybody? Team Steezy family. How's everybody doing, man? Peace and blessings, peace and blessings. If you're new here, I'm your host, Calvin Domingo, aka Steezy A. And if you aren't already, then you're missing out. But be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Steezy A Smith TV. Man, I hope everybody's doing well, man. I know it has been a while, and I feel like I always say that, but at the same time, I have been having some technical issues with the PC, and I've finally gotten it fixed. So shout out to the guys over at Best Buy Geek Squad. I do want to give you guys a shout out, whether or not you see this. I'm thankful regardless. And so, man, I hope everybody's having a great day. I hope everybody's been enjoying the weather. I know it hasn't been very warm. It hasn't been very kind. It has been a little chilly. The rain has been settling here in the Pacific Northwest. But regardless, there's still plenty to enjoy. I mean, it is life. And yeah, before we do kick things off here, do have an action-packed episode for you guys. Let me check you guys out here in the comments, man. We got Robert Stevens in the building saying, "Sup, Steezy and company." We got Baby Rhea in the building saying, "What's good, Calvin?" Hey, always great to see you guys here. I'm always happy to see familiar faces, especially and in particular. If you are unable to watch the live stream, I know a few of you guys on Instagram did tell me that you were planning to catch the replay. I just want to say what's up to you guys, and I wish nothing but peace and blessings. I hope you guys are also having a great day/evening. Like I said, man, today we have an action-packed episode. I've been out the game for a little bit. It has been a couple of weeks, but a lot has happened with the Seahawks since we last saw them in action and on the field in Week 9 at home versus the Rams in an overtime loss. Since then, cornerback Josh Jobe has been a revelation, and now he's an official member of the 53-man roster. Sure, it came at a cost, but with him now an official member of the 53-man roster, I couldn't be happier. I mean, like I said, he's been an absolute revelation. His play on the field has been a boon to this defense that's struggled mightily for the majority of this season. And so with the play that we've been seeing from him, I mean, boy, am I glad that he's finally on the 53-man roster, because if he was on that practice squad for another week or so, who knows? Maybe he would have got scooped up by another team. And I'm actually surprised that he didn't get scooped up by another team during that period in which he was getting activated to the active roster and being sent back and whatnot. Not only has he been activated, or not only has that been a change, right? Right tackle Abe Lucas was recently activated off of IR, and right now it seems likely that he does make his season debut this Sunday versus the 49ers. In addition, do-it-all wide receiver DK Metcalf made his return to practice from an NCL sprain earlier today. And not only did he practice, but he practiced in a full capacity. So early signs do point to him playing this weekend against San Francisco. And with the Seahawks having lost 4 of their last 5, and with the schedule only bound to get tougher from here on, Seattle's going to need DK. Seattle's going to need Abe Lucas. Seattle is going to need the best version of Josh Jobe. And we'll touch into another guy here you guys might have seen on the thumbnail later on today's show. I don't plan on this show being any longer than, I don't know, let's say 40 to 45 minutes. And I do apologize. I don't have a guest with me today. I hope that I alone will suffice. And so I will be bringing guests on. I still do plan on bringing those interviews with some of the guys on the team, namely Rick Woolen, Jake Bobo, Jaron Reed, Michael Jarrell. I still have all that in the works. And so just please be patient and bear with me. I know a lot of you guys have been doing that for the longest time now, and maybe you're getting impatient, but for those of you guys willing to stay down and struggle with me, I love y'all. I still love everybody else regardless. One more time here. Robert Stevens is saying we had 4 a.m. tornado warning the Sunday of the time change. Wow. Well, Robert, I hope you guys are staying safe over there. I know you're over there in Oklahoma, so I will be continuing to pray for you. Stay safe, and, man, take care of you and yours, Robert. Thank you for taking the time to tune in, man. You guys have all that going on, and here you are still tuning in, a loyal listener, a loyal follower of mine. And, Robert, I couldn't be more thankful. Shout out to you, for real. Okay, Baby Rhea here is saying, just came in and say what's good, but got to get back to work. Got a long night. Have a blessed night. Stay safe. Hey, thank you so much, Rhea. Have a great rest of your shift, and I'll see you here soon. Take care. All right, y'all. So I do want to start off today's show. We'll touch on Tyrell Dodson and his release. I want to hear your guys' reactions and whatnot. But first, before we do get into that, just a few housekeeping notes real quick. Don't tune away just yet. Follow me on Instagram at Steezy A Smith TV if you aren't already. You'll be entered into a drawing to win free Team Steezy merch. And a few of my subscribers, a few members of the Team Steezy family can attest to having gotten free Team Steezy merch. So don't be shy. Be sure to hit that follow, especially if you want to see daily Seahawks content / coverage. I'm not on YouTube, obviously, daily, but on Instagram, I am on there daily for those of you guys that have been following for some time now. So if you are already, for whatever reason, be sure to do that. Send me a DM on Instagram. let me know that you just followed or you followed because you saw my stream on YouTube, and you'll be automatically entered into a drawing to win free Team Steezy merch. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't ever miss a live show on this channel. I know as of late, prior to this little 2-3 week hiatus that I've been on, I was going live every Tuesday night. Now I'm trying to be a little bit more flexible with my schedule, and so I'll be going live either Tuesdays or Wednesdays, depending on if there's a lot going on. I could go live both days. You guys let me know if you want to see me live 2 days in a row and 2 days in the same week. But just because I won't know until, I don't know, like a day or two prior, just hit that notification bell so you don't ever miss a live show on this channel. Last but certainly not least, all super chats are greatly and immensely appreciated. If you donate a certain amount, I might just give you free Team Steezy merch on the spot. On the spot. I've done that before on this show, on this channel. And man, who doesn't like receiving free merchandise, right? I mean, I got a whole lot of Steezy merch, hats, shirts, got some hoodies on the way. I got all of that. So yes, all super chats are greatly appreciated. Shout out to you guys, man. The Team Steezy faithful. Actually, no, because it is San Fran week. Let me not use that word. Steezy family, the Team Steezy family. I mean, that's been working for all this time, so let's keep it there. Where do we begin? All right, that's right. So we're not talking about Tyler Dotson first. We will touch on that in just a bit. His replacement, rookie linebacker out of UTEP, Tyrese Knight. We will touch on that. First things first, I do want to start off, and I did talk about this on Instagram, so forgive me if you've already seen this, but I did have a chance to peep, and this is via Next Gen Stats, courtesy of the NFL, right? I had a chance to peep their playoff probability model. And according to their playoff probability model, entering week 11, the 4-5 Seattle Seahawks have a 10% chance of making the playoffs. Now, if they were to win versus the 49ers and San Francisco this weekend, those odds would jump up to 20%. I don't even want to talk about this. I don't even want to put this in the air. But as a talking head, I must. Now, if they were to lose, you might ask, this weekend in San Francisco, anybody want to take a quick guess, chat? Anybody in the chat want to take a quick guess as to what the Seahawks playoff chances would be if they were to lose this Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers? I'll wait a little bit. I'll wait. I'm not in a rush. I hope you guys aren't either, but I'll wait. Add a little bit of suspense. I don't want to just throw it out there, right? I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait, chat. Or if nobody wants to guess, then you can say that in the chat too. Okay, well, I'm not going to wait all night. If the Seahawks were to lose this Sunday, according to the NFL's Next Gen Stats playoff probability model, oh, we have a comment. Hold on. Robert Stevens is saying 10%. Robert, you are very close. However, that is incorrect. It's a little lower. And that number is a little scary. 5%. If the Seahawks were to lose to the 49ers in San Francisco this weekend, those odds would fall all the way down to 5%. And also, according to that same model, the Seahawks have the same chances of winning the NFC West. Also 5%. But the one silver lining is that the Seahawks do play 2 straight divisional opponents. As of right now, in entering week 11, the Seahawks are winless against the NFC West. 0-2. I know it's not the biggest sample size, but Seattle does have a small hole to climb out of. And so a lot of that, if things are going to change as far as the trajectory of this football team, a lot of that's going to have to start this Sunday in San Francisco, which is going to be a very tough, tall task. But this is the NFL we're talking about, and the NFL is full of tall, tough tasks. So yes, this weekend is obviously going to be a pivotal week, but let's say the Seahawks lose. All is not lost. All hope is not lost. Next Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals, it will be a well-rested team as they are on bye this weekend. And going back to what I said earlier, 5% chance of making the playoffs, also a 5% chance of winning the division. That could drastically change given the outcome of Seattle's next two matchups, like I just mentioned, against divisional foes. Currently 0-2. Now, I didn't get a chance to dive into what those chances would look like if the Seahawks were to win any of these next two games against divisional foes, but I think you guys get the idea. There's a lot on the line, not just this week, but next week as well. These next 2 weeks could very well determine whether or not this football team is going to be playing football in January. And if Seattle ends up going winless these next 2 weeks, I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Needless to say, these are must-win matchups. I know that term is thrown out all the time, but if Seattle, the expectations all along, and I understand that it's essentially a new regime in place, right? New head coach, new offensive coordinator, new staff on both sides of the football. Heck, 3 sides of the football, all 3 phases of the football team. I mean, special teams included. It's thrown out there all the time, but if Seattle can't win at least one of these next 2 against the Niners and the Cardinals, season's pretty much over. And again, going back to what I was saying, I understand that there is so much newness on this football team. There's still a good amount of veterans and star power. And believe it or not, most people still have this team potentially pushing for a playoff spot. Not necessarily winning the division, but pushing for a playoff spot, especially given how this team started. And so we'll see what happens. But again, these next 2 weeks will very well determine Seattle's fate. Now, I got to ask you guys, do you foresee the Seahawks turning their season around and parlaying that into a playoff appearance? Again, this football team has lost 4 of its last 5 games. And after starting the season off 3-0, that's obviously not an ideal situation to be in. I don't know. Chat, I'll leave this up here for a little bit. Chat, I want you guys to answer this. I'm not going to answer this. I might answer this after this week. Hopefully after a W, right? I'm not going to be answering this just yet. I do want to build a little bit of suspense, a little bit of intrigue for the next time I do touch on a topic maybe this sensitive. Some of you guys might look at it, might view it as sensitive. I certainly do. I mean, the city of Seattle has gotten so used to winning and has gotten so used to this culture that the playoffs are an expectation each and every single year, even after bringing in essentially what amounts to a new regime. And so, chat, I'm going to ask one more time, no rush, but do you foresee the Seahawks turning their season around and parlaying that into a playoff appearance? Talk to me. Don't be shy, you guys. I mean, I only have so much time with you guys. Again, I don't plan on being live for any longer than 40 minutes. And so, chat, yeah, don't be shy, man. Let's talk, man. Let's talk. It's been a long time, man. It's been a long time. I ain't been on YouTube in 3 weeks now, almost 3 weeks, and so I haven't seen you guys in a while. You haven't seen me. Talk to me. Like I said, I will leave that up on a board or on the screen. I want to talk about Tyrell Dodson next, though. I do want to talk about Tyrell Dodson, but before we get to that, I just want to hear some of your guys' answers. So we do have somebody in the chat. Robert Stevens is saying, I'm hoping wild card round. I think that's still a reasonable expectation. You know, that there's a lot going on in the NFC playoff picture. And as things stand today, the Seahawks are actually 11th in the NFC. So you're about 4 spots back of the 7th and final playoff spot in the NFC. You're right behind the Rams. The Seahawks are right behind the Rams and right in front of the Buccaneers, who are sitting at 12th with a 4-6 record. And so, again, these next 2 weeks will be paramount to Seattle's playoff chances. And, chat, I'm going to wait for others to respond and kind of chime in here. Miss Alina Dahl in the building, the lovely Alina Dahl. Welcome, Alina. Always a pleasure and always great seeing you here in the chat. I hope you're having a blessed night. Alina here is saying, I'm always looking for the Hawks. What are your thoughts on the release on Dodson? It does free up some money. Right. And that's actually a perfect segue. Like I mentioned, that's what I wanted to talk about next. Chat, though, do feel free to put in your answers. Just because we are moving topics does not mean that you can't answer this question. Once again, do you foresee the Seahawks turning their season around and parlaying that into a playoff appearance? A playoff appearance. Go ahead and take you guys' time. But Alina, perfect segue. So entering week 11, Dotson leads the Seahawks in total tackles with 71. He's tied for fifth on the team in sacks with 2. He's second in tackles for loss with 5. And he also has 2 pass deflections and a forced fumble. So he's been stuffing the stat sheet. He has been all right. for lack of a better term. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that he was a dominant force for the Seahawks, but I'm also not going to sit here and say that he was just a scrub and that he didn't do anything. I mean, yeah, it's a little extreme, both sides, but those are the stats as being shown to you guys. And I'm going to skip here just a little bit because I did have this in order, but to piggyback off what Alina Dahl was saying, because he was claimed off of waivers, Seattle is no longer contractually obligated to Dotson as far as his base salary plus roster bonuses, and therefore manages to save a little bit of money against the cap. Now, because it was a 1-year contract, I think after incentives, total value of the contract could have reached up to about $5.5 million. Obviously, you remove the incentives because he was claimed on waivers. Now the Dolphins essentially inherit that contract, and so I'm not exactly sure what the exact number is as far as what Seattle is saving off of the salary cap. But if I had to put a number on it, if I had to give you guys an estimated guess, I think the Seahawks are saving just a little bit over $1 million off the salary cap. So again, it's not a significant number. Nevertheless, anytime you're in the NFL and you could save a little bit of money, I mean, it's bigger than what the number might indicate, right? So yes, saving $1.1 million off of the salary cap might seem minuscule, but who knows? Maybe that $1.1 million difference, and again, hypothetically speaking, right? I'm not saying that $1.1 million is the exact number. It is an estimated guess, though. So take that for what it's worth. But again, going back to my point, 1.1 million or even just $1 million and change could be the amount. Look, for crying out loud, Russell Wilson is making just over $1 million in Pittsburgh. I know that Denver still owes him a lot of money. I know that Denver is paying him money, but I'm just now realizing this. The release of Tyrell Dotson is saving the Seattle Seahawks the same amount of money as what the Pittsburgh Steelers are paying Seahawk legend Russell Wilson, which is actually astonishing. I'm actually bewildered. The same amount of money that the Seahawks are saving by releasing Tyrell Dotson is the same amount of money that the Steelers are paying Russell Wilson this year. Or at least it's close, right? I know that's not an exact number, so I could be off a little bit, but I think the point still stands, though, which that's actually crazy. I didn't intend to talk about Russell Wilson on today's show, but talk about an interesting parallel. Well, okay, go. All right, getting a little bit distracted here. Going back to what I was saying, though. Yes, Alina, Seahawks do save a little bit of money. In the eyes of many, it might seem minuscule, but it's definitely something relevant and something to note. Going back to Alina here, he was already picked up by Miami. That's why the Hawks are not stuck with paying him. Do you think there was an issue amongst the players and that is why he's gone? That's a great question. Okay, and Alina. Okay, Alina confirmed it. Thank you, Alina. Correct, a little over $1 million. Well, thank you. And before I go on to your next comment here, I'm going to answer this question for you, Alina. So do you think there was an issue amongst the players and that is why he's gone? Honestly, I don't think so. I really don't think that it was related to what was going on in the locker room. Obviously, I'm not in there, right? I am familiar and I do have a relationship with some of the guys in the locker room, but as far as what I know, no, I don't think that there was an issue amongst the players. I mean, from what I've seen, from what I've heard, Tyrell Dotson was a guy that got along, with people in the building. He was a guy that was liked by people in the building. And like we talked about earlier, I mean, he might not have been the perfect fit for Mike McDonald, nor was he a perfect fit in this defense, in this particular defense, the scheme that Mike McDonald is trying to install and implement. But no, I don't think there was an issue amongst the players. I think it's all, not entirely all. I think it's definitely performance based, right? But at the same time, I think that the Seahawks just realized that, our season could be over. We could be looking towards next year. Look, they'll never admit this, right? I'm a talking head, so I guess I can kind of talk about it. But look, I think what it comes down to is Tyrell Dodson. I think we're about the same age, 25. Maybe he just wasn't viewed as a foundational piece. Maybe he just wasn't viewed as a guy that was going to stick around in Seattle for the long haul. While his age might indicate so, his play didn't necessarily show why Seattle should keep him around for the long haul. And again, it's not fair to pin all of Seattle's struggles on Tyrell Dodson, especially because this is his first full opportunity as a starter in the NFL. I know he started, 10 plus games for the Bills last year, and he was phenomenal. He was magnificent in filling in for Matt Milano, who was a Pro Bowl linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. And so he was stepping in into some pretty big shoes. But no, going back to your question, I don't think it's because he had an issue with any of the guys or anybody in the building. I just think that it was, they finally realized that, look, he's not a part of this team in the long run. And instead of demoting him to a backup, like Mike McDonald said, and I will pull this quote up in a little bit from his press conference this past Monday, he wanted him to have an opportunity to still be able to play, even if it wasn't for the Seahawks. And so perhaps they're looking for Tyrell Dodson's best interest. Kind of just my hunch there. Alina is also saying, can you imagine paying that much and not having that player on your team? It's many players they could have had with all that changed. Oh, no doubt. And that's why when you're a team in that situation, you want to try to collect as many draft picks as possible, right? You want to have cost-controlled assets, and it helps to have a quarterback on a 5-year rookie contract because you're paying them minuscule dollars relative to what the rest of the NFL is paying their quarterback, their starting quarterback for that matter. And so, yeah, it's definitely tough to imagine, but at the same time, they knew what they signed up for when they brought in a Russell Wilson. I understand, was it a different regime? It might have been a different regime, maybe not in the front office, but definitely the coaching staff, right? That's probably not what they signed up for when Sean Payton and his staff signed on with Denver. But it's happened in other sports, right? I've seen this in the NBA. We've seen this in the NBA. We've seen this in the NFL, though not nearly as often. But look, Denver, I think future's looking up for them. Not to get off topic here for too long, but the Denver Broncos, I mean, that defense is absolutely legit. Bo Nix is getting better by the week. I think their rookie running back out of Notre Dame, Audric Estime, I could be saying that wrong. Somebody correct me if you know how to pronounce his last name. I think he is going to take over RB1 duties. Cortland Sutton has been on fire. Sean Payton is still one of the better offensive minds in the game. I mean, man, arrow's pointing up. And again, they have a bunch of young guys, and so they're not necessarily having to allocate a bunch of their finances and resources to a bunch of high-earning players. But, Alina, I still think you make a great point. And obviously it sucks to have to stomach that. But at the same time, I mean, when you're making billions of dollars, maybe it doesn't hurt you as much as the next person. So that's what I had to say about that. Alina, that's what I thought about Dodson. Normally a team would have a replacement player. Maybe they are looking / needing that veteran player to help with all the young players on the team. No doubt about that. And if we're looking at one of the biggest areas of struggle that this defense in particular has had to really contend with throughout the course of this season, it's the run defense, right? And now the first couple of weeks of the season, we all thought that this unit was going to be the most improved unit as far as defending the run entering the year. But fast forward to week 11, that's not necessarily the case. It still looks like the Seahawks teams of old, the Seahawks teams, I should say, of the last few years, not able to defend the run, not necessarily the most disciplined as far as controlling your gaps. And all that aside, though, Tyrese Knight, I do think that his ability to stop the run, while he has his lapses in coverage, I do think that as far as stopping the run, Tyrese Knight is far more effective at doing that than a Tyrell Dodson. And maybe Mike Macdonald and the coaching staff on defense is confident in their ability to coach up Tyrese Knight in coverage more so than they have. I mean, Seattle obviously is coming off a bye, and so maybe Tyrese Knight showed enough promise to where Mike Macdonald was comfortable, and John Schneider and the rest of the Seahawks front office in the building was comfortable in letting him go and not necessarily just benching them. They wanted him to still have an opportunity to play, and so I think ultimately it was in the best interest of the player, and Seattle has always been player friendly, right? And so shout out to the Seahawks for doing that. We wish Tyrell Dodson the best in his future endeavors. It's crazy because now the Dolphins, the new team that Tyrell Dodson is playing for, they now boast 2 former Seahawks linebackers, and Jordan Brooks and Tyrell Dodson, after claiming Dodson yesterday. And I have no doubt in my mind that Tyrell Dodson is likely going to be a starting linebacker for the Miami Dolphins, especially after the surprising release of Captain David Long Jr. I know, and I forgot his last name, Anthony Walker? I could be mistaken. I know he's kind of stepped into Long's place as the starter at linebacker, but I mean, you're taking over the rest of Tyrell Dodson's contract. It's not a lot of money, but I highly doubt that they would claim a guy off of waivers, inherit his contract just to have him on a bench. And so I think moving forward, Dodson's going to be getting a lot of reps with the Dolphins as soon as he's up to speed in that system. And Alina here is sharing a sentiment that I believe all of us could relate to. Yes, I am missing Bobby. I am too. As I think most, if not all 12s are, Russell Wilson included. I did talk about that on Instagram, and that post is doing numbers. So again, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Steezy A Smith TV. Apologies for the shameless plug. Yeah, I mean, he's been great. Obviously, the Commanders have been one of the more surprising teams, if not the most surprising team in the National Football League. They'll likely be in the playoffs, barring an unforeseen collapse and an utter collapse, right, by the Commanders. But look, if the Seahawks don't end up making the playoffs, I'd love to see Bobby and the Commanders, Russell Wilson and the Steelers. I'd love to see both those teams making noise. They absolutely deserve it. And I don't know, maybe they're not necessarily in the twilight of their careers. Not just yet. We'll see. And here's Alina verifying that for me. Yes, Dolphins released David Long Jr. Thank you. And just a fun fact, Long was a 2023 tackles leader. Fun fact. Thank you for sharing that, Alina. So before we move on from Tyrell Dodson, if you guys have anything else that you guys want to put in the chat as far as your reaction, how do you feel about that move now that you've had a couple of days to let that marinate? Chat, talk to me. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I mean, obviously I'm over here talking ad nauseum, right? But I want to hear you guys too. I mean, talk to me. Be honest. What was your initial reaction after seeing the release of a Tyrell Dodson? And was that the right move? So while I wait for you guys, chat, to answer that for me, I do want to pull up a quote that I thought was very interesting from Mike Macdonald's press conference this past Monday. When asked about the release of Dodson, here's what Mike Macdonald had to say. And man, I wish I could just play the sound clip, right? I mean, I wish the next screen, or I wish that you guys would be able to. And what I'm trying to get at here is, you know how like on ESPN, right? Or like on SportsCenter, when you're watching SportsCenter, you'll see the broadcaster talking, and right before he's about to end what he's saying, then you would see video on the screen of the said press conference. I don't know. Maybe I'm not making sense, so just scratch that. But this is what Mike Macdonald had to say. It was what's best for us, for the team at this point. And you're looking at what's best for the person too. Mike Macdonald said via the team's website, quote, "This is a guy that's come in and worked really hard. It didn't work out here, which is on everybody involved, myself included. But it gives him an opportunity to go play somewhere else." And obviously that was before he was claimed by the Miami Dolphins. That was said on Monday. The Miami Dolphins claimed Tyrell Dodson yesterday, which was on a Tuesday. And so, man, shout out to Mike, man. He's always he's always putting some of the blame on himself. He's always taking accountability. I feel like every single time there's a question that's directed about like what's wrong or what's going on with this. How come, this player didn't do this or whatever. Mike is always quick to say, here, and let me bring this up, to talk about himself and where he didn't necessarily get the job done. And here it is. So, which is on everybody involved, myself included. So I love the fact that he's always quick to take accountability, because in this day and age, I mean, that's just not something we see people do. We got Anthony, and forgive me if I'm saying this wrong. Is it Gimnez or Gimnez or Jimenez? Let me know, bro. I apologize if I'm saying it wrong. But Anthony here in the building. I think this is my first time seeing you. So, hey, welcome to the Team Steezy family. I'm happy you're tuning in. Your question is, do you think this is a must-win game? Oh, absolutely. Like I talked about at the top of this show, it's thrown out there all the time. But I think that in this scenario, it is most definitely a proper time to be throwing something out like that. Yes, because if the Seahawks lose this game, and once again, according to the NFL's next-gen stats playoff probability model and other sites, media outlets, models and whatnot, they could tell you otherwise, but I'm just going off next-gen stats here. According to their playoff probability model, the Seahawks will have a 5% chance of making the playoffs if they lose this week against the Niners, which is, again, a very tall and tough task. So, yes, because I still expected this team to make the playoffs, then yes, based off of my expectations, and this is a must-win game. And if Seattle somehow loses next week against the Cardinals, and the season is all but over as far as making the playoffs. So, Anthony, to answer your question, yes, this is a must-win game. Now, if your expectations are different, or if you're somebody else and you didn't expect this team to make the playoffs and you wanted this team to fight for a high draft pick, then maybe you wouldn't look at this as a must-win game. But I don't think that way. I really don't. And so, yes, this is a must-win game. What say you guys? We talked about Tyrell Dodson. Now we got to talk about the guy that's stepping in for him. Rookie linebacker out of UTEP, Tyrese Knight. Chat, while I talk about Tyrese Knight, I want you guys to answer this for me. What are your expectations for rookie linebacker Tyrese Knight moving forward? Obviously, he is now slated to start at linebacker on the weak side next to Ernest Jones, who is in the middle. So, chat, you guys let me know what you think, man. But in going back to what Mike Macdonald was saying in his press conference this past Monday, he also spoke, I'm not going to say glowingly, but it seems like he's optimistic based on what I've gathered from this right here. Here's what Mike Macdonald had to say. Quote, "We expect him to keep improving as a player." End quote. Macdonald said this past Monday. Quote, "He's going to get a lot more reps now to just try to take his game to the next level. Do what he does, make tackles, play good, solid football for us. And looking forward to seeing what he does with the opportunity." So Knight has only seen 7 defensive snaps in the past 5 games, but he did produce to the tune of 22 total tackles, a tackle for a loss, and 2 pressures, while only missing 1 tackle from weeks 2 to 4, the same stretch in which the Seahawks played the Patriots, the Dolphins, and the Lions. He showed some promise, right? I mean, he wasn't the most adept in coverage, and we knew that coming out of college, coming out of UTEP, that wasn't necessarily a strong suit in his game. Not to say that he can't improve. He will improve. And let's not forget, y'all, Mike Macdonald is a former, or is still in his heart, right? But I guess he is a former linebackers coach, and he's helped coach up a lot of linebackers in the National Football League. So I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to coach up Tyrese Knight to the best of his ability. Duh, right? I mean, as the head coach, that is his responsibility. But I don't think you release a Tyrell Dodson if you're not confident in a Tyrese Knight, right? And he's already had to start when Jerome Baker had a missed time earlier this year. We've seen what Tyrese Knight can do on the football field in a starting role, right? And so it's not like he's just being thrown into the fire and it's like, yo, we drafted you in the 4th round. we don't have the most depth at linebacker. We released the starter, and so here, let's see what you could do. He hasn't. It's not now. If this was a situation in which he was just being thrown into the fire and we hadn't seen him on the field very much, then I don't know if the Seahawks would have just been that quick to release a Tyrell Dodson. But I myself, I personally believe that he has a plethora, loads of potential. I think in coverage, I mean, he's athletic and he can move. And so it's not like he's going to be a liability in coverage forever. I think as a run stopper, as a run defender, he's already average or above average, especially for a rookie, especially for a player as young as he is. And so once again, chat, what are your expectations for rookie linebacker Tyree Snipe? You guys talk to me. And while I wait a few answers, let me go back to the chat here for just a second. Back to Alina Dahl here. We have to give Coach Mike time to fit his team his way. Coach Pete, most transactions in his first year as a coach, which is over 200. People are of the culture of winning right away. Give him grace. Oh, no doubt. And I myself, I agree. You know, I definitely think that he deserves, you know, some grace. Again, he's the youngest head coach in the National Football League. And so it's going to take time to be able to establish what you want to establish, especially after taking over such, and as of late, an illustrious franchise like the Seattle Seahawks. And so, Alina, 1,000% agree with you. Although I know I did mention that I still expected this team to make a run for the playoffs. Maybe I was looking more at the players and the personnel, but well said. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. We got Dune Moose here in the building, man. What's up, Dune? Long time no see. Hopefully my home state boy, Brandon Peely, gets some snaps. He is from Alaska. That's right. And just a fun fact here, his sister happens to play in the WNBA. And so that's pretty cool, man. They got some athletes in that family. As you guys know, I'm an avid basketball fan / connoisseur. And so that's pretty dope. I think that's pretty cool. It might be a game or two. It might be a couple of weeks, but I do believe that Brandon Peely will get some snaps. I mean, again, you don't sign this guy and just have him on the bench, right? I mean, they definitely saw potential. And again, the run defense is still a work in progress. And Brandon Peely, I think, can contribute towards that. Doing here saying Hankins wasn't all that we'd hoped for or hoped he'd be. Please play Peely. Yeah, and with Hankins, I mean, I hate to point out his age, but perhaps that's finally catching up to him. I mean, he's 35, 36, and he's been in the NFL for a long time now. And so maybe he's just running out of gas, running out of mileage. But at the same time, I do also think that Seattle has had to play him a little bit more than maybe even he was expecting. I mean, when he showed flashes for the Dallas Cowboys last year, he wasn't playing a bunch of snaps. He was playing limited snaps. And so perhaps he's being a little overworked. Perhaps he's getting a little bit more that he could, or yeah, perhaps there's a little bit more on his plate than initially expected. But Dune, I mean, I agree with you. Yes, Brandon Peely will get some playing time, just not right away. It's going to take some time, especially in that complex of a scheme. As for Tyree Snipe, the young fella shows promise. A lot to learn, but there is that rookie hunger to prove himself. I think many of us had to adjust our season expectations. Keep growing. 1,000%. I mean, again, these next 2 weeks will be very pivotal in showing us where the season is headed, right? And so we don't have to wait too long to find out whether or not this team is going to make the playoffs. Now, if the Seahawks are able to win these next 2 games, then maybe that changes things expectations-wise. But, hey, man, shoot. Oh, Alina's saying you can't say that about age. Bobby is 34. Jonathan Hankins, he's only 32. I swear he was older. Okay, my mistake. And Alina, I apologize. I promise I'm not. I promise I'm not trying to discriminate based off of age. I mean, what else could it be? Is it the complex scheme? I mean, just last year he showed flashes, and so maybe it's not age, but because he's been a part-time player now for the last couple of years, perhaps having been thrusted into a larger role than previously expected, I'll attribute it to that. Not necessarily age, but because he's playing more than he was expecting, when he initially signed with the Seahawks. I'll attribute it to that. I think maybe that's why Hankins hasn't been what we all thought he would be. But apologies, Alina. Apologies. All right, y'all. So I just realized we're at 45 minutes into the show. Now I did come in a little bit late, so perhaps that's affecting, the showtime a little bit here, but I only want to be live for a maximum of another 7 to 10 minutes. And so I hate to have to rush this towards the end, but I do just want to let you guys know we're going to move at a faster pace here just so we can kind of cover everything I wanted to cover. Real quick here, Alina Doll saying, you know me and checking the facts. Right. And that's why I love seeing you here, Alina. I mean, you bring so much to the table. Not only are you a great human being, but I mean, to do this, I couldn't be more thankful. Doing here saying it's been a while since I tuned in. Steezy looking sharp this evening. Any special occasion? Well, thank you, Dune, for noticing that. I haven't been live. I haven't been on YouTube for the last 3 weeks, and I always have a different reason for going on hiatus. But this time around, it was because my PC wasn't working and I wasn't able to get it booted up. And so because this is my first show back in about 3 weeks, that's a special occasion. And so shout out to Doom, man. I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. But yeah, to answer your question, that's the special occasion. It's just my first show back in some time. So, I want to look good for y'all. You look good, you feel good, right? So we've talked about Tyrell Dodson. We talked about his replacement in Tyrese Knight. As you guys have seen on the thumbnail, I now want to transition over and talk about some key guys that are going to be coming back. So has the cavalry arrived? Starting with Abe Lucas, Coach Mike McDonald said this past Monday that Lucas returning this weekend to play San Francisco was a, quote, realistic expectation, end quote. Lucas was a limited participant in today's injury report. And as for wide receiver DK Metcalf, who's been nursing an MCL sprain and hasn't played since a Week 7 victory over the Falcons, he participated fully earlier today, is on track to make his return this Sunday. Abe Lucas, we haven't seen him since Week 17 of last year. Now, I don't expect him to just come in and be the Pro Bowl looking sort of force that he was in his rookie year. But I think even and I'm going to say that he's less than 100%, not because of health reasons, but because of potential rustiness. And so even if he's not 100% himself, I believe that he's a significant upgrade. And this isn't a knock on any of the guys below him on the depth chart, but I think even at less than 100%, Abe Lucas is a significant upgrade over everybody else on the depth chart, particularly at right tackle. And so while he might not be the end-all, cure-all for the Seattle Seahawks offensive line, I do think that could potentially open things up, not just in the pass game, but perhaps we could see more open rushing lanes for a K9. More rushing lanes. Perhaps now's the time to kind of sprinkle in some play action. Perhaps that inspires and gives offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb some more confidence to dial up different plays and whatnot. But I do think that with Abe Lucas coming in, I'm not gonna say that he drastically alters the trajectory of this football team, but I think that he has the potential to potentially alter this team's offensive line in a positive, obviously, manner moving forward. And just to even take, let's say this offensive line goes from bottom 5 in the NFL to around league average. Maybe that's a little too much to ask for, but let's say they move from bottom 5 to a top 20 offensive line in the NFL. I think that you can open up the offense a lot more because this team has been so one-dimensional for various reasons, right? But this team has been very one-dimensional on offense. And by having an Abe Lucas, he's going to improve the guys around him on the line. He's obviously going to do his thing. He's going to do Abe Lucas things. But yeah, it has been a while since we've seen him on the field. And so to couple that with DK Metcalf coming back, I mean, DK, he hasn't had. It's not like, okay, he dominates every time he plays the Niners, but in 11 career games against San Francisco, Metcalf has 55 receptions for 680 yards and 5 touchdowns. And so Seattle's most definitely going to need that sort of production if they are to keep up with what is looking like the healthiest 49ers team we've seen all year, minus Brandon Ayuk. But with Christian McCaffrey, yeah, he showed just a few signs of rust last week. Some of that rust is probably gone now heading into this Sunday versus the Seahawks. And so if the Seahawks are going to have any sort of chance to kind of climb back into the NFC playoff picture and make any sort of dent as far as the NFC West divisional race, then Seattle's definitely going to need DK Metcalf and Abraham Lucas. Hence why I keep coining it as, oh, the cavalry has arrived. And so I'm excited. I'm going to go back to you guys here in the comment section. Dune here is saying, I know we're struggling. Please, just one win versus the Niners. I don't know if the cavalry has arrived, but any team can let it all hang out for one game. Let's not let this losing streak go double digits. Oh, yeah, that'd be tough. Alina here is saying DK was a full participant in today's practice and on track to return for this weekend's game. Yes. Dune, we're one roster spot heavy from allowing the cavalry to arrive. Let D. Williams go and pull a big fella up from the practice squad. Speaking of which, your guy, Brandon Peely, we'll see if he's acclimated enough to be able to be called up to the 53-man roster by this Sunday. If not this Sunday, sometime in the next couple of weeks, I think he'll be on the 53. And Dune, maybe you make a great point, right, about the cavalry not having fully arrived. But I think, and just looking at DK Metcalf and Abe Lucas, I mean, two significant pieces of the puzzle. I think those two alone might be enough to say that the cavalry has arrived. I mean, they're just that good. Now, San Fran is just as good, and I believe they're still a Super Bowl contender, and they should still be one of the top 3 favorites to emerge out of the NFC. And so this is not going to be easy, especially when you take into account the fact that the Seahawks are winless against San Francisco since 2021, 0-6, and have lost by an average of 12+ points in that same span. And so, dude, I am with you. Even if, let's say, the Seahawks, for whatever reason, if we knew this before this weekend, if we just knew that the Seahawks weren't going to make the playoffs this year, but if Seattle were to come out with a dub against the Niners this Sunday, then that'd be fulfilling in its own right. I mean, dude, like you talked about, like you alluded to, I mean, the Seahawks just struggle mightily. Ever since Russell Wilson left, it has not been the same against the San Francisco 49ers. And so even if Seattle can't beat the Niners because they themselves are also desperate and kind of looking on the outside, and they're also on the outside looking in regards to the NFC playoff picture, I mean, just a hard-fought battle, just to be able to kind of hang in there with the Niners, that's all I ask for. That's all I ask for. All right, I think we got a new member of the Team Steezy family in the building here. I'm not familiar with this username. Sentai Ranger Donnie, Renew Power Rangers 4 seasons. Oh, no. It's Donnie. This is Donnie. Hello, Steezy and all. Hope everyone is well. And Donnie here is saying hello to Alina. Long time no see, Donnie. Man, great to see you in here. Alina, even if all the Hawk fans show up to their stadium like they do ours, that will be awesome. Oh, great point. Great point. Hey, all right, you guys, I do have to wrap this up again. I apologize for having rushed this. There was one more topic that I wanted to touch on, and so I'm going to let you guys just discuss this. And for those of you guys catching the replay, you can you can comment, not in the live chat, obviously, but you can comment on the video once you guys catch the replay. Just because I had them on the thumbnail, I do want to just bring this up a little bit. In case you missed it, though, with safety Kayvon Wallace, and real quick, shout out to Kayvon Wallace. I think he just recently got engaged. And so, Kayvon, if you're watching this, if you will, one day run across this, congratulations on being engaged. And, man, us in the 12s couldn't be any happy for you. So, congratulations on that. But, again, in case you guys missed it, with Wallace having been recently placed on IR, could that potentially open the door for a reunion with free agent safety Jamal Adams? And I know, before you guys talk about Jarek Reed, I know he showed signs of promise last year, but he'll likely be brought along slowly over the next few weeks. And I don't know if he'll return to a full workload at all. I mean, especially given how the season is going, it's just, we got to think about the future, right? I know he's there, but with safety Rayshawn Jenkins still on IR, could Adams be an option for the Seahawks down the stretch? Especially if Seattle wants to patch up or wants to continue to patch up its run defense, plus give itself a vocal leader. If you guys still follow Jamal Adams on social media, and this was back in week 9 when we were playing the Rams, but he posted on his story him tuning in, watching the Seahawks and the Rams game. And so I know he's still friends with a lot of the guys on the team, and maybe that's why he's tuning in and watching games, but who knows? I mean, maybe he also helped facilitate his release with the Titans because he knew that he wanted to play for a different team. I don't know. I'm just throwing this all out there. Perhaps he's also a part of the incoming cavalry, right? Along with the DK Metcalf and Abe Lucas. I know a lot of fans, a lot of 12s are turned off by the possibility of Jamal even coming back. But look, I just had to throw it out there because, right, Jarek Reed coming off a 20 ACL, Rayshawn still on IR, Kayvon now landing on IR. I mean, you can never have too much depth at safety. And so, I don't know, just throwing it out there. You guys let me know what you think. One last time here in the comment section chat before I do call it a night. Donnie here is saying I'm a returning YouTuber. I decided to keep my surname private. Okay. All right. I have been a YouTuber since 2006, but under past names. All right. Good to know. Well, Donnie, welcome. And I'm glad to have you on board and here active in the chat. And so, okay, one more comment. Titans did release Adams after a 3-game appearance. What does that say? Look, there's always two sides to the story. Perhaps they weren't enamored with what they were getting out of him. And I mean, we've known for a long time now that the Titans this is a rebuilding year. And so maybe it was just like, you know what? We need to go as young as possible. I know they still have other veterans, but they just weren't as invested. And so it was easier to kind of cut ties and let them loose. But I mean, it could also be a bad sign, and it could just be, you know what, maybe he's just not good at football anymore. I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that he still messes with the Seahawks heavy. And so I think that's still a possibility, especially if the Seahawks are able to kind of keep their playoff chances alive. I think that becomes more likely. If not, then that's out the window. All right, you guys. Well, that about wraps up tonight's show. This was kind of a last-minute stream, so I don't know where I was getting at here, but this was a last-minute stream, and so I'm happy to everybody that showed up, that pulled up, chat. I love you guys, man. You know what they say, man. Time flies when you're having fun, and I've been having an absolute blast. I do look forward to seeing you guys next week. That could either be Tuesday or Wednesday, so just be sure to turn on that notification bell so you're tapped in and so you know what's going on. Or also just be sure to check out that community tab daily. I mean, I try to post on there, but like I always say, man, peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. I hope everybody has a lovely, blessed rest of your night. To everybody that's going to catch the replay, thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys want to hop on a future show, man, follow me on Instagram and send me a DM. I would love to potentially try to set that up. Again, I still have guests and athletes that I do plan on bringing on for interviews. And so, yeah, man, I love y'all. Alina here saying thank you for the live. Thank you for tuning in, Alina. I got nothing but love for you guys, man. And as I like to say, man, all love, peace, and blessings. Steezy out, baby. Again, this video is going to be dedicated to Mr. Todd Nas. While that concludes this video, we have loads of other content. You don't have to stop watching there. Other content on our channel homepage, as well as our social media platforms. And again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for us. Tell a friend and tell a friend. Nothing but love, and Steezy out.